So a while back I sat down and decided to play through all the Crash Bandicoot games in a week, and I had a blast with a few hiccups in the middle, but overall it was honestly a blast. And to this day it's still the best performing video on my channel, and I'm quite proud of it still. And recently my friend's been going through all the Sonic games, and he was saying how going through Sonic 1 and 2 was, and I thought, why don't I put the Crash Bandicoot formula on all the Sonic games? And then I realised that that's an awful idea because there's about 40 different games with the racing ones and riders and secret rings and all them. So when me and my friend were speaking, we had the idea to change it from all Sonic games to 100% in all 2D Sonic games. And to begin with I thought that'd be a piece of piss, I'd get it done in 7 days easily. That couldn't have been further from the truth. So while doing research on how to approach this challenge, I looked back on my Crash video and someone in the comment section put, I'm gonna butcher this, Nathaniel Bandy's gonna sue, oof. And I guess that maybe he did beating every Crash game in a week. So I went to have a gander at how he set the video up, and right there I saw exactly what I needed with his video, can I 100% every 2D Sonic game in 1 week? And while I'm so happy I saw it, so I can see the rules set out and what games I need to beat and what classes for 100% in each game, I also feel like a complete rip-off, but oh well. So thank you for that, and let's quickly jump into the rules of the challenge. I start on Monday at 12 PM, so I have till next Monday at 12 PM, or 168 hours. I have 14 different games to beat, which are Sonic 1, 2, 3, CD, 4 Episode 1 and 2, Sonic Advanced 1, 2, 3, Sonic Rush 1 and 2, Sonic Colors DS, Sonic Mania, and finally Sonic Superstars. I can skip a game and come back if needed. I can look at guides for help. So out of the 14 games, I've only played around 7 of them, which are the original 4, Advanced 1, Rush 1 and Mania, and out of all of them, I've fully 100% completed 0 of them. So this is kind of a new journey for me, and going into it I was very excited for the nostalgia, and to play the gems that I missed along the way. So now that I have all that sorted, I can now jump into day 1. So my plan for day 1 was to take out the original 4 games, so I got Sonic Origins so that they were all in one neat little package and loaded up Sonic 1, and this is my first experience with Origins, and why don't we have a full cartoon in the style of cutscene that this game has? It's like beyond charming, and adds that little extra to the already very simplistic story of the first 4 games. So anyway, I loaded into Sonic 1 and I had full faith I could just fly straight through it. Like, I haven't played it in over 10 plus years, but I knew it's not that hard of a game. But to 100% this game, you need to reach the end of 6 levels with 50 plus rings and then jump into the spinning ring, and then complete the stupid spinning bonus stage, and then you get one of the 6 Chaos Emeralds for each one of them you do. And I'll be honest here with you, Sonic 1 was really annoying for me at the time, for the amount of standing around and waiting, which was so tedious. You can really tell this was Sega finding their legs with this game. And yeah, while you have to give it credit for being the first in the franchise, that doesn't automatically make it a good game. Like, most of the zones sucked. Well, in my opinion. There's only Green Hill Zone that people speak about. Same with the song, actually. It's the only song in this game that I enjoyed was Green Hill Zones. But the rest I will just pass on them. And the fact if you get hit for any reason near the end of the level, you have to restart and do it all over again. At the time I thought that was the worst thing ever, not knowing what was to come. But in hindsight it's really not that bad a thing. But it is a bit of a downer, especially when there's a lot of bullshit in this game that will hit you just out of nowhere, so you have to slowly crawl to the end goal, which is ironic about, you know, playing as the fastest thing alive and all that. And you know, to quickly talk about the bosses, they were pretty good, but nothing to write home about. But the first boss is iconic and the final boss sucked, and you know what you get for getting all the Chaos Emeralds? Absolutely nothing. It took me 2 hours and 1 minute to beat Sonic 1. So with that done, I instantly loaded up Sonic CD, which I remembered the least about of the first 4 games, and to be honest, I had the lowest expectations for Sonic CD. So once Sonic CD loaded, I got this. And that is something I can say was, has been, and always will be amazing. The opening for Sonic CD is so good, so when it started playing I couldn't help but crack a smile. and it got me pumped to get into the game, and I'll come out and say it, I really enjoyed this game for the most part, and the whole change in the level design, depending if you're in the past, present or future, is very cool. And level wise, I think this game is much stronger than the first game. Still not great, but you know, a lot stronger. And it also had the introduction of Amy and Metal Sonic, so points there as well. So to 100% this game, you need to collect the 7 time stones, which, you know, Sega was still trying to figure out what Sonic was all about at this point, so they had time stones instead of the Chaos Emeralds. And there is also the additional one, opposed to the 6 in the first game. But yeah, you get the time stones, and get this, you'll have to collect 50 rings, and then make it to the end of the level, and then jump in the giant spinning ring, and then complete the bonus stage to get each of the time stones, except in this game the bonus game is actually peak. You run around and destroy the UFOs while the clock is counting down, and they aren't easy, but they're not stupidly hard either. It finds a nice middle ground of being skill dependent, and I really like these stages to the point where I might say CD's bonus stages are the best in all of the Sonic bonus stages, only rivaled by one other game. So yeah, like in Sonic 1, the big treat you get for getting all the 7 Chaos Emeralds, or Time Stones in this case, is nothing again. And just like Sonic 1, the final boss sucked, but the Metal Sonic race was a highlight. I was a really big fan of that. It took me 1 hour and 45 minutes to 100% Sonic CD, and for the most part I really enjoyed it. Before loading into Sonic 2, I spoke to my friend on what his thoughts were on it, and he said it was more of Sonic 1 for him, and he wasn't too fond of it. And I'm not gonna lie, that kind of lowered my expectations for the game. And I know it has a chemical plant zone in it, and while the music for that's great, I've always not been a big fan of that zone for some reason. As a kid, I'll be honest, I did not like Sonic 2 for some reason, and like I just said, my friend wasn't a fan either, but I figured if I loved Sonic 1 as a kid and go back to it now and wasn't a fan of it, and I didn't remember anything from Sonic CD other than the intro, and that had the Metal Sonic race and the time travel stuff, then maybe I was wrong about this game as well, and maybe my opinions could be flipped on it. And they did. Now, my friend wasn't wrong, he said it feels more like Sonic 1. And yeah, it does feel like more of Sonic 1, but it feels like what Sonic 1 should have been. It was quicker, it had better stages, it had tails to help you traverse the levels, and it had a reason to get all the Chaos Emeralds, and the way you got them was even better as well. So instead of making it to the end of the level with 50 plus rings and jumping through the spinning ring, they made it so you can get more than 1 emerald an act. All you have to do is get to a checkpoint with 50 plus rings, which is the perfect way to do it in my opinion, but maybe I'm biased because it made my life easier. What didn't make my life easier were the bonus stages, and let me make sure I get this point across clearly. These weren't bad bonus levels, but it was just a lot of trial and error. Like, what comes later is so much worse. I thought Sonic 1's levels weren't great, but these were just more annoying because you had to go through them, fail a couple of times, go through them again because now you know where the rings are, and then just keep doing that. And, you know, the way they're played is fine, but overall, the trial and error situation of them would not be fun if I didn't have Sonic Origins where I could keep restarting the levels. And it took me 1 hour and 4 minutes before I finished Chemical Plant because of retrying the bonus levels, but after that I got all 7 Chaos Emeralds, and with them you can turn into Super Sonic when you got all 7, so it's worth collecting just to blitz through the levels once you've got him. Like, it's so much more fun playing with Super Sonic because you get a higher jump, you've got quicker speed, and you know, you will get crushed at least once because you can't see what's coming, but that's not that annoying because you can just re-get your 50 rings to turn into Super Sonic again. And a quick little note, I said before I didn't like Chemical Plant, but going back through it again, it's amazing, and I have no idea why I didn't like it. Same with the whole game, to be honest. Even the soundtrack's far superior to the first one. I don't know what I was ever thinking. And even the final boss is like quite challenging and really fun. Sonic 2 took me 2 hours and 44 minutes to beat, which was made longer due to those special stages for the emeralds. And I mean this when I say I was hoping that it never got worse than those stages, but I was so wrong and should have been grateful for what I was given with them. At least I could retry these when I failed, without having to restart the entire level. So, since Sonic 3 and Knuckles was my friend's last 2D Sonic game that he's played, I thought why not check in with him and see what he thinks about it, and to nobody's surprise he really likes it, and that's fair. From what I remember about this game, it's well loved, and I'm pretty sure most people say it's the best game in the franchise, at least 2D wise. And I'm pretty sure I loved it as well, but again, I really don't remember much of it. Sonic 3 and Knuckles was the game I was most looking forward to revisiting, for the pure fact when people talk about the peak of 2D Sonic, it always falls to this game. And that's fine with me. I'm not going to say there's a definitive answer for what classes as the best or peak or the worst, but what I can tell you is my opinions, and my opinion is this game is probably the best of the first 4 games of 1, 2, 3 and Knuckles and CD. And I enjoyed almost every part of this game. The addition of Knuckles, of course, is something, but then you've got all the new areas as well, and I think when it comes to the areas for these games, this one easily takes it because it has the most variety in levels, with a bunch of different themes and the different gimmicks in the levels, and sure, if some of them didn't hit for me, maybe others would, and that's exactly what I needed, is variety at this point. The bosses, for the most part, they were really fun to go against. Even the final boss was pretty cool with how, like, you ran away from him and broke the emerald out of his grasp. Now, to 100% this game, you have to find the 7 spinning rings in the levels and jump in them, and then you do a bonus level, and I found these levels like so much more boring than Sonic 2's or 1's. Like, they're so dull. But that's fine, because once you get all 7 of the emeralds and beat 7 levels, you get to go Super Sonic again, and he's just as fun in this game as he was in Sonic 2. Now, here's the catch. As soon as you get to the Knuckles areas, you then lose the ability to go into Super Sonic, and then you have to find 7 more big bastard spinning rings, and then got to do 7 more of those blue ball bonus levels. So you just run around, touch all the blue balls and turn them red, and if you touch the red balls you then lose and have to restart. So anyway, yeah, once you get these 7 whatever, you power up the Master Emerald, and then you can turn into Hyper Sonic. And let me tell you, I think the little bonus of the blast jump is worth it. It's so fun to skip parts of the level by just blasting over the obstacles. I don't know if it was just worth it for me or everyone loves Hyper Sonic, but yeah, even if the bonus levels did suck, the Hyper Sonic was worth it. And if you did get all 7, well, all 14, I think, Chaos Emeralds, and then power up the Master Emerald, you then, as Hyper Sonic, are treated to a extra final boss where you fly in space as him, destroying Eggman's machine who's trying to fly off with the Master Emerald, which was really fun and felt like a real bonus for getting all the emeralds. This game took me 4 hours and 1 minute to beat, and while it was the longest by almost double the time of Sonic 1, Sonic 1 still felt like it took the longest because of how many times you just stood there idle or waiting for something to get out your way, and how you have to play at a snail's pace to make it to the end of the level with 50 rings. All in all, I can see why Sonic 3 and Knuckles is held to such a high standard. And I got my gold done for the first day after playing for 10 hours and 42 minutes, but I knew I still had some progress to make, and I knew the challenges only just really started, so I quickly loaded up Sonic Advanced 1. Advanced 1 caught me off guard. I knew I had to play through it 4 different times, once with each different character, so I just loaded up Sonic and tried to blast through the game, but I knew that I was slowly coming to the end of the day for me. I was mentally checking out, making dumb moves over and over again, but while I was playing, I couldn't help but notice how good the game felt to play for a Game Boy platformer, and how charming all the sprites looked in this game. While I have played it before, it was pretty much a brand new game for me. Like, I remembered nothing of it, and going through it felt so different than what I was expecting. I haven't heard anyone talk about these games before, so I really didn't know what I should have expected going into them, and during my first run through with Sonic, I can happily say I would rank this game pretty high. Anyways, I got to the final boss with Sonic, and I was so tired that I just couldn't do it anymore, because I lost focus and just kept dying in stupid ways, so I had to put the game down and go to bed, but I was feeling pretty good about my chances for the next day. I woke up and felt kinda refreshed, until I realised it was Sonic Advance Day, which I knew was going to be a hard journey to get through, but I just booted it up and wrapped up Sonic's playthrough. it was really easy once I wasn't tired getting hit by stupid moves in the final boss, and I could just focus on it, and yeah, he went down really quickly. I then loaded on to Amy next, and she was weird because everything about her relied on a hammer, but it didn't make the game harder. In fact, I think it made it much easier. Once I understood that you could use the hammer as a jump attack for things below you, and the hitbox on it is kind of jank, but in a way that benefits me, so I don't really mind. Anyway, now that I knew the levels and bosses quite, mediocrely, I kind of just blitzed through Amy's campaign with little to no troubles. And then when I went on to Knuckles, I thought, you know what, he's probably my favourite character in the game due to his glide feeling pretty good. Same with the wall climbing. It just allowed me to play in a different way compared to Amy and Sonic, which is great. And again, it didn't take much time to beat with Knuckles because now I did know the levels and bosses. What did take time was Tails' playthrough. Now notice I haven't talked about getting the Chaos Emeralds in this game. Well, there is a perfect reason for that. It's because I waited until playing as Tails to collect them. So to get them you have to find a hidden spring in each level, and it'll take you to the bonus level. But the reason I waited for Tails is because if I missed a jump or it was above me, I could just fly around and get to it way easier. So yeah, Tails was just the ideal way of getting to the bonus levels. And also, remember how I didn't like Sonic 2's bonus stages? Well, this is kind of like them, except worse in every single way. Since I was playing Sonic Origins, I could restart every time I failed through that. But with this, if I failed, I had to turn off the game, reboot it, and then get to the spring and try again. Over and over again. And it's not like it's easy bonus levels. In fact, it probably took me more time to beat the final 3 bonus stages in this game than it did to beat the main game with Sonic, Amy and Knuckles put together. The reason it's so hard to beat these levels is because you have to do everything pretty much pixel perfect and not get hit once. And for the life of me, I couldn't tell if I was in the right place to hit the rings or not. And then I'd miss a bunch of rings on the way down, and everything was just against me. You also have to do a little trick for these yellow glowing circles, but I couldn't tell if I was doing it at the right time because of the way the camera is, because this is a Game Boy game. I can just say these were some of the worst bonus stages I've played. It made Sonic 2 look so much better. It's not even a contest. I can say that these bonus stages lowered my ranking of this game by a huge margin, which is such a shame. But yeah, eventually I got all the Chaos Emeralds and got to the Super Sonic boss fight, and it was okay. I mean, it's a Game Boy game, so I'll give it credit. It was a fine final boss. Nothing great, he went down like really easily, just spam attack and hit the head over and over again. That's pretty much it. And with that, Sonic Advance 1 is done, and I got it done in 6 hours and 35 minutes, which I'm pretty happy with, but it would have been around 3 to 4 hours if it wasn't for those god-awful bonus stages. I'm not sure whose idea that was, but I think an example needs to be made of them very soon. The first hour and a half was in the first day, which all in all wasn't bad, and meant I had a lot more energy for the day, leading me into Sonic Advance 2, which is the second most dreaded game on the entire list for me, but I knew I had to get through it anyways. I just loaded it up. Sonic Advance 2 fucking sucks, and I hate to say that, and I'm not sure if that's an unpopular take, but this game fucking blows. I'm sure if you know about the 100% completion, you know what I'm on about, and if not, let me explain to you why this is one of the worst games to 100% in this challenge, or just, in general. Let's start with how you have to get 7 Chaos Emeralds on every character to unlock Amy. Now, the way you get the Chaos Emeralds in this game is by beating the level after collecting all 7 special token coin things. And here's the kicker. Sometimes if you miss a jump or fall, then restart, because you only have one chance to get them for a lot of them. And also, if you die in the stage, unlucky, restart, because it resets the tokens you have collected, and then once you have all 7 and made it to the end of the level, you get one chance to beat the bonus level. But I really like these bonus levels, and I don't know why, maybe because the absolute shit that was Advanced 1, but these bonus levels rival CDs. I really like them, but it doesn't excuse for the rest of this bullshit. Anyways, so once you beat the bonus stage, you get 1 Chaos Emerald, so you have to collect 49 tokens minimum, and that's just with 1 character. Remember, You have to do it 4 different times, so that's 196 different tokens, and that's assuming you do it flawlessly, and let me tell you now, I did not do it flawlessly. In fact, the amount of failed jumps or little screw-ups I had in this game was so miserable. The actual gameplay is somehow a step down for Sonic Advance 1 for me. They do give you a few more moves, like little tricks in the air and little air dashes and stuff, you know, that's pretty cool, but I swear they are only useful to get these tokens, and for the most part the levels aren't even that fun to play in general. But again, this might just be me being mad about the tokens and how ridiculous it was to get them. So anyways, I load up as Sonic first just because he's the most basic and I can learn the levels for future use, and it took me way longer than I am happy to admit just to beat the first level with all the tokens because of one stupid jump. That if you miss, you just have to restart, and I'm not happy about this, but this was the first game I had to use a guide on because of how stupidly hidden some of the tokens are. Like, if you gave me 1 week just to find all the tokens in one level, I couldn't do it. So yeah, I used a guide and slowly made my way through the game with Sonic. And you know what, even the bosses in this game kind of weren't really fun. Mainly the one to save Knuckles, like why the hell does he just one-hit you for no reason when I have rings? But I finally finished up Sonic's campaign with all the Chaos Emeralds, and yeah, I wasn't a fan, but I swiftly just moved on to Tails and played him. Much quicker. I kind of flew for, to where the tokens were and made it to the end of the levels, and due to the levels not really being hard, I got to the end quickly. But I still needed a guide. Being able to fly kind of feels like a necessity in this game, because of how many of the tokens are ungettable once you miss a jump or something. I cannot stress how miserable this was. Like, Tails made this 10 times more fun than Sonic's playthrough, and I was pretty happy with how quickly I blitzed through the game with Tails, so once I beat the final boss with Tails, I was pretty tired and thought it was time to call it quits for the night, but I knew if I didn't push myself from here on out, I would have no chance at beating the challenge. So I loaded up Knuckles' run, and I hated the game again. I kept missing jumps or going past tokens and having to restart, and I just didn't want to continue the game anymore. But again, I knew I just had to knuckle down and get all the Chaos Emeralds. So I did, and I got them all except for the final one before calling it a day and going off to bed. I woke up and went to get a haircut so I could feel refreshed for the rest of the challenge, and got home very quickly, finished up the Knuckles run, and to know I still had one more campaign to do before I finished the game was so depressing. I couldn't take much more of the game, to be honest. It was really getting to me, and I was ready to call it quits and stop the game, quit the challenge and everything. But I spoke to some of my friends for a bit and got remotivated, and what a fucking idiot I am for doing that. Cream the Rabbit was actually a cakewalk. Like, she made the game 10 times easier because she can throw out this little chow to cheese the bosses, so that stupid wheel boss that was one-hitting me earlier for no reason was just really easy, so that was the only challenge in the game, to be honest. Other than the tokens, and they were fine to get as well, because I knew where they were for most of the levels at this point, and I still looked at the guide sometimes. But yeah, Cream can also fly very slightly like Tails, but way worse. But yeah, her and Tails were easily the funniest to go through the game with, followed by Knuckles and then finally Sonic. And the 2 rewards I got for getting all the Chaos Emeralds is, one was Amy, and I didn't even need to play her to 100% the game, so that was kind of pointless. So I went back onto Sonic, jumped into the Super Sonic fight, and guess what? It's a replica of the first game's boss, but much worse, because of this stupid vacuum move that sucks all the rings out of you. And the only way to hit it is by charging into the missiles to send them flying back to the robot, and then that was it. Sonic Advance 2 was done. It's weird that it was just a replica of the first game. It felt like this game was trying to be the first game, but worse in every single way, and I don't know why, but yeah. With that, Sonic Advance 2 was done. So overall, this game was horrible, honestly off-putting. From the levels which I found way worse than the first game, to the meh bosses, I just didn't have a good time on this game, and overall it's bottom of the barrel for me. The only redeeming quality of this game is its bonus levels, that's it. If they just made it so you only need to get the Chaos Emeralds on one character to get the final fight, and beat the game with everyone to unlock Amy. I feel like that could have fixed it. Anyways, my experience with this game ruined my mood that bad I put off Sonic Advance 3. Sonic Advance 2 took me 14 hours and 5 minutes, and I enjoyed probably like 24 minutes of it. So like I said, I put off Advance 3 and jumped to a game I was actually really looking forward to doing. I bought Sonic Mania when it came out and I loved it. I then got it on PC when I got one ages ago and loved it. I then got a PS5 and got it on that and loved it. So yeah, I love Sonic Mania, and it's probably my most played Sonic game out of all the 2D Sonic games, so I knew it really well, which means it wouldn't take me long to beat it, and recoup after the absolute mess that Advance 2 was, which will haunt me for the next few months. So I boot up Sonic Mania as a breath of fresh air. It was quick, looked beautiful, and the levels were actually really fun to go through. The Chaos Emeralds are earned by going through big spinning rings, like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and then you chase a UFO, and once you catch up to it you get a Chaos Emerald. Some of these can usually be quite challenging, but there's a weird glitch that I took advantage of. If you press Y or triangle, you can just skip the speeding up process and get the Chaos Emerald in seconds. And yeah, while I did do that to skip it, I still love these bonus levels, how they're actually played, but I was in a, well, time crunch. And they do rival Sonic CDs for the best bonus levels. I think these are actually better when I think about it. But just like every game before this one does have a flaw, and this game's flaw is when you have more than 25 rings and you get a checkpoint, you have to jump through those that checkpoint and do those stupid blue sphere levels like Sonic 3 again, and you have to perfect 32 of them, and this kind of dragged the game down, but not by a lot because of how enjoyable the actual game is. So yeah, I just did both side by side, and I got Supersonic before I finished Chemical Plant. And this game also lets you use Supersonic in the levels when you get 50 rings, which was a blast to use again. And the bosses in this game are also very fun, mainly Beanbark and Fang boss fight. And I hope that trio gets more love in the future, mainly because Bean's my second favourite Sonic character right behind Silver, who is also in need of more love. But yeah, once I get Supersonic, the game becomes child's play, where you just have to save 50 rings, unleash Supersonic, and then just go. As this game is kind of a best of game, it doesn't really miss the mark. The only level I didn't like in this game is the last level's Act 2, because it was just annoying. But it isn't bad, and my favourite is probably Mirage Saloon for obvious reasons. The final boss in the game is okay, I guess. It isn't anything great, but it isn't bad. But the Supersonic boss fight is actually pretty good, mainly how Sonic controls. I might just be glazing because it's my favourite 2D Sonic game, but everything about it is good. And I know I keep saying it because that mess, and that just, you know, made me enjoy it more. Sonic Advance 2 has destroyed me so much over the past day that going to Sonic Mania has just made me appreciate this game even more. This game took me 4 hours and 25 minutes, and I enjoyed almost every second of it, minus the blue spheres, but even they couldn't ruin my mood. So, once I finished Sonic Mania, I thought, why not do a game I've never played before? And it is the newest game on the list. I haven't seen anything on it either, so I'm going into it with a completely open and fresh mind, but the only negative is I'm coming off of the high that Sonic Mania is. And I had no clue if I was going to finish this in one go, but I kind of needed to keep up with lost time that both advanced games caused me. At this point in the challenge as well, I was stressed beyond belief and my head was starting to pound badly, and the worst bit is I was only halfway in, and in my mind I thought I was already out for the count, so I needed to speed up, I needed to play longer and take less time sleeping, which isn't healthy, but nothing is in this challenge, so in fact it's a pretty stupid challenge. But there's no time to think about how stupid I am at this moment, or I couldn't focus on the headache that was slowly creeping in, I just had to play. So I loaded up Sonic Superstars. Sonic Superstars is a game that has went under the radar for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people. I think it's because it came out during the Sonic Frontiers Update 3 hype, so not many people were talking about it, and it was also a full price game, which not many people want to fork out for a classic 2D Sonic game. To be honest, me included, but I can say it was a nice surprise. The game looked exactly how you'd expect a modern classic Sonic game to look. All the characters had a unique charm to them, same with the levels for the most part, and it even gave time to an old character. They gave the spotlight to Fang as a partner to Eggman, which was nice to see. The game itself felt really good for the most part again. They had a Donkey Kong type of gimmick where you go into the background or foreground of the levels, and I always like to see that in a game. So to 100% this game, all you need to do was find a spinning ring in the levels, and then do a bonus stage, which was a step down from Sonic Manias and CDs, but it's still a fine time where you just swing from blue spheres trying to catch up with the Chaos Emerald, and that's pretty much it. It's fine. I didn't have to redo a single one of these levels, they were really easy, and the spinning rings were really simple to find, so I can't complain. And once you get all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds, you can turn into Super Sonic, which again hasn't failed me yet, and it's just fun to play as. You also get special powers for each Chaos Emerald you get, like being able to spawn a vine beneath you to get some high ground, or spawn a bunch of clones of yourself to hit all the enemies on screen. And while I really do like the idea of having different abilities for each emerald, some of these I did not use a single time because there was almost no reason to use them, and others felt beyond situational where I'd only use them just to use them. I was flying through the game at a rapid pace and there was nothing to stop me at this point. And I knew this was kind of my last chance in the challenge to have fun, so I was trying to savour it because I knew it only went downhill from here. So something I have found out about this game is people hate the bosses in this. And I'm not sure if I'm delusional, but I really didn't mind the bosses in it except one, which I'll get to soon. They weren't anything special, but they certainly weren't the worst in the series, I don't think. Anyways, I carried on blitzing through the game and shockingly beat Sonic's story in just 3 hours and 2 minutes, which was way quicker than I was expecting. But then I unlocked the new character Trip and had to beat her campaign. Luckily I didn't have to get any of the Chaos Emeralds again, but rather just beat the exact same levels, and I'm not sure if it was because I literally beat the game seconds before starting Trip's campaign, but holy shit, they could have made it shorter. It's just the exact same thing except on easy mode because she's all 4 characters put into one. She can double jump, stick to walls, fly in a dragon form, and she's really quick. Yeah, she turns into a dragon if she goes super for some reason. So yeah, just when I thought this game was good to amazing to 100%, this thing comes in and ruins my mood completely. And on top of that, the final boss in her section was the one I was on about earlier, where I was just rolling my eyes because of how bad it was. It's a giant fang robot, and it has a few attacks that will just one hit you and send you back to the start of it. It's the only boss in the entire game where I just hated it. Like, I really didn't enjoy a bit of it. And it could have ended any moment because I was so bored of it. But yeah, it went down eventually. Once beating Trip's story, I thought it was over, but I got access to the final story where you play as Super Sonic and fight an evil dragon, and this fight was fine. It had cool bits where you know, just attack this massive dragon in like the sky and the background's really cool looking, but when you think about it, it's a case of hit the boss in the centre and that's it. It didn't take me long to do, probably like 2 or 3 tries because of an instant kill move the dragon has where it shoots out a black hole. And once I beat the game I was pretty happy. I managed to get 3 games wrapped up on the same day. But at this point I had nothing left in the tank and needed to go to bed because I felt like it was like the day I was going to collapse and die at my desk. And I just said it and I'll say it like many other times, but this challenge was starting to become sickening. And I'm only entering the halfway line at this point. While I am enjoying myself, I already wanted it to end, so yeah, I wrap up for day 3. But I do want to talk about Sonic Superstars a bit more. If I paid £60 for this, I would have been livid, because to 100% it took me 7 hours and 12 minutes, which really isn't that much time, and just half of that time is redoing everything, just on a different character. So yeah, I would not have been happy to play full price, but that doesn't change the fact the game's still a good and fun time, because now it isn't full price for most consoles, I think. I got it on Steam for like a sale anyway, and I really enjoyed it my first time around, and I'd rank it pretty highly out of all the games so far, with a lot of potential for the future in the franchise when it comes to classic 2D modern Sonic games. Sonic 4-Day, I did not want to do this. I didn't want to start it, didn't want to load it up, didn't want to do anything with this. Not a single bone in my body wanted this, but I had to. And I'm not sure if you can tell by the look of me, but I was very tired, pretty much on autopilot at this point, and I needed to beat both episodes and start Rush All Colours DS on day 4. So just the thought of that was mentally taxing. But first I needed to get episode 1 out of the way, and this is probably the most soulless, boring game, not only in the Sonic franchise, but maybe in gaming in general. I couldn't name a single thing I liked in this game. Maybe how short it was, but due to the game being such a bore, it didn't even feel like time went that quickly, and every time I died, it felt so much worse than any game that came before it. I may look miserable playing some of the other games, but that's kind of just my face. I have what's to be called a resting bitch face, which yeah, I can see, but this game was actively making me sad, and was the only game that made me rage because I'd rather have to replay the entirety of Mania than have to do another level from Sonic 4 Episode 1. So to 100% in this game, you have to collect 7 Chaos Emeralds like usual, and then just beat the game. And to collect the emerald, you have to do what you did in Sonic 1 and CD, collect the 50 rings and get to the end of the level and then jump through the giant spinning ring. But this game has so much bullshit around every corner. It has this homing attack for you to use that doesn't work over half the time. It honestly just sucks in every kind of way. You can tell this game was made when Sega was grasping at straws. It's such a horrible experience. So anyway, once you get to the end of the level and jump into the spinner ring, you do the spinning bonus levels like Sonic 1, except just like everything else in this game, it felt so much worse than Sonic 1's bonus levels. The difference in this is you get to spin the map around manually. You get to choose which way the map's going to spin Sonic. So you have more control, but it just feels worse. Anyways, once you beat the bonus levels, you get a Chaos Emerald, but I failed more often than not. And this is where most of my time came from, because I had to redo the level and keep the rings just to try again. I hated this so much, and when you finally do get all the emeralds, you can turn into Supersonic, which I did not have a chance to do. So I can't talk about it, I'm just going to assume it's ass like everything else in this game. And the boss fights weren't even good. I mean, the first boss is literally Sonic 1's boss. It's shameless, and then the final boss took so long to kill. If people are going to complain about Sonic Superstars bosses, then I think we should just redirect them to the final boss of this game. But I guess Superstars is held to a higher standard than this pandering piece of shit game. So let's talk about the Supersonic boss fight as well for this one. There isn't one. Just like Sonic 1, remember how that didn't have one? This game is so bad, it's one of my least favourites. And, you know, it's probably one of my least favourite games I've played in a long while. Oh, and I couldn't play any of this with the controller, so I had to use a keyboard to play, which made the experience even worse. Overall, Sonic 4 Episode 1 took me 4 hours and 13 minutes to beat. So, once finishing up that mess, I took a little break because, as I've said a lot in this video, my head was starting to pound and I was starting to feel actually run down and sick. But when I came back, I loaded up Sonic 4 Episode 2, and I mean, just look at me, I look so fucking rough. It looks like I've been having a breakdown during my break. So when I got into the game, I couldn't use controller, and somehow the controls were even worse than the first game, but luckily the game itself was much better. There was a lot less bullshit, and it felt like I actually had time to react to where the enemies were, rather than being expected to know where they were. The game still borrows a lot from earlier titles like the Metal Sonic race, and even the bonus stages are pretty much the same as Sonic 2's bonus stages, like how Episode 1's were Sonic 1's bonus stages. But while Episode 1 felt like a downgrade on Sonic 1, Episode 2 felt like an upgrade on Sonic 2's bonus stages, which was a pleasant surprise. You just go through the levels running in a straight line, and you've got to move left and right to collect as many rings as you need to pass through the level and get the Chaos Emerald, which is fine. I was expecting myself to take a lot longer on this game because of how bad I was at Sonic 2's bonus stage, but no, I swept through them, having to only restart 1 or 2 times in the whole game, which was a nice break. But it didn't change the fact I was very fatigued at this point. So to get to the bonus stages, it's the same as Sonic 4 Episode 1's or Sonic CD or Sonic 1, where you save 50 rings for the end and jump through the spinning ring. And there you go. So while I said this game was a lot better than Sonic 4 Episode 1, that doesn't mean I like it. I'm just grateful it was over quickly. The stages themselves, while they were better, I still couldn't name a single one to save my life, or do I remember the layout of any of them, or the design of any of them. Other than the one where you start out on the snowboard on top of the avalanche, that was pretty cool. The final boss was a decent idea, poor execution, and I think Supersonic in this game as well was meh. I didn't really feel that much stronger for using it. And yeah, my favourite part of this game was the Sonic and Tails duo moves, but that felt really underutilised, so again a missed opportunity. And just like the first episode, there was no Supersonic boss fight, which fucking blows. Sonic 4 Episode 2 took me 3 hours and 22 minutes to beat. I now know why I never beat Sonic 4, and why I never heard anything positive on it as a whole, because if you lump both parts together, it's just a boring slog of uninspired levels and a lot of nothing. And then, if you want to break it into Episode 1 and 2, then it's still a boring slog of uninspired levels, but one's more shiny and playable. But that doesn't make it any good at the end of the day, and this is just another game where I'll probably never load it up again, unless it's for another challenge down the road or something. After finishing up Sonic 4, I was very tired, and because of that little break I took between Episode 1 and 2, I was ready to call it a day. But I knew I hadn't even been playing for 12 hours yet, and I couldn't call it quits, so I went on a randomizer to figure out if I was going to start Colors DS, Rush, or finish the Advanced series. and I felt like no matter what it landed on, I wasn't going to be happy, but I needed to start a game, so I loaded up the wheel with full excitement, and as you can see, it landed on Solid Colors DS. And from what I've heard, this is going to be a long game, so I was very lucky to be starting this on day 4, I guess. I've played Sonic Colors before, but never the DS version, and to be fair, this version is still really good. Going through it was a blast for the most part, so because I was coming off such a long day, my plan was to get a feel for the game and then go to bed and wake up as early as possible to continue playing. But I didn't realise how quickly I was going to fly through the game. The levels were a lot of fun to go through, and they weren't even that long, so I just kept playing and playing without really focusing or trying. And even still, I was collecting all the Chaos Emeralds as well, so either the games before this has moulded me into some sort of Sonic prodigy, or this game is just extremely easy. So to collect all the Chaos Emeralds in this game, you're going to need to make it to the end of the world with 50 rings in each world. And like I said, it's extremely easy, and once you do that, you get the best version of the Sonic 2 bonus levels, where you just run in a straight line, collect the orbs, and there's 3 parts to it. So let's say in the first part you get blue orbs, second yellow, third red orbs, and that's it. So the levels and bonus stages were a blast to play in this game. Now what about bosses? Yep, the bosses in this game were also really fun. They let you use the wisps for extra damage or to speed up the fight. Even the final boss is really cool, how it uses the power of the wisps that you've been using all the game, and it flips it and uses the wisps against you. I really like it when shows or games use the characters' powers against them, and I have no clue why, but I just do really enjoy it. But getting all the Chaos Emeralds, you can't turn into Super Sonic in the levels, which kind of sucks on the surface, but there is a way deeper issue with this, and I'll get to that shortly. But when you do get all the 7 Emeralds, you unlock the Super Sonic fight, and I actually really like this fight. For some reason I didn't know what to do to begin with and kept missing my attacks, not knowing how to lock onto the eye. But once I figured that out, I kind of blitzed through it, and while I did prefer the non-Super Sonic final boss, this is still a pleasant boss in this game. Now, that actually isn't the end of the game though. So to 100% this game, you have to also get gold on each level and collect 120 red rings for some fucking artwork. Why? I loved the game, but as soon as I beat it, I didn't want to play anymore, because I knew how long it was going to take me to perfect all the levels and find all the red rings. Even using a guide, I knew I was in trouble. So I stayed up as long as I could, collecting red rings, but I knew I couldn't do that in day 4, so eventually I had to call it there and go to bed. I woke up with one thing on my mind: Sonic Colors. While going to sleep, I had a video of guides on the game, so I woke up and got straight to work. I started playing Sonic Colors non-stop, and the issue I said I was going to get back to earlier with Super Sonic not being playable in the actual levels is, if I could turn Super Sonic, it would have made getting the S rank so much easier from being able to speed through the levels without having to worry about the enemies and getting a higher jump and speed. That would have helped me so much. So the fact I need to be perfect to 100% this game was such a horrible thought, but I just kept tanking the hits. I think the red rings, in my opinion, was a worse time than the S ranks. Anyways, I put on some baby metal and just played for a long time, shutting off the world just so I could get this bastard of a game out of the way. Focusing on the red rings first, so I could remember the layouts of the levels and stuff, so it would make the S ranks a lot easier. It was just really unfun to do the red rings and S ranks, mainly the red rings, and like the actual main part of the game would have been such like a high ranked thing to me, but because of these 2 completion things I need to do, it just lowered the rank of the game, so yeah, it just spoiled my time. But eventually I finished getting all the S ranks and I was completely empty and void of joy at this point, because it felt like this challenge is already over in my head, because this isn't even the longest game out of all of them, and it still took so long for me to beat. Sonic Colors DS took me 13 hours and 5 minutes to 100%, which is really embarrassing that it took me less time than Advance 2, but with this out of the way it means I could move on to Sonic Advance 3 to finish that trilogy. Sonic Advance 3 was a lot more fun than the first 2 games for me, and even the 100% completion was a lot more fun than the second game, because I didn't need to get so many stupid tokens and all that, and I didn't need to find the 7 Chaos Emeralds on every character. Instead, what needs to be done in this game is you need to collect all 10 Chow in each act, and then once you got them you'll find keys in the levels, and once you got the keys you need to find the hidden springs and then do the bonus levels where you're on the tornado collecting rings, which it's fairly fun. Oh, and once you get the chow you have it forever, none of that bullshit where if you die, unlucky, restart. Also, you'll need to get gold medals in each level, which is unlocked by just beating the levels quick enough, same as Sonic Colors with the S ranks. And to be honest, once you played through the levels enough to get all the gold medals, you'll have found a fair few of the chow. But yeah, I still looked up guides for the ones that were really hidden. The game also has a team mechanic, in where, depending on what characters you have mixed together, they do different things, like where Tails flies holding on to his partner, or Knuckles can glide with his partner on his back, or can be thrown at enemies. Stuff like that makes the game feel much better than the previous two in the series, and also, the fact this has the partner team up mechanic, but way more in depth than Sonic 4 Episode 2, kind of takes points away from that game even more so. The bosses in this game also were pretty good. Same with the levels, it was just good platforming and required good reaction times or knowledge of levels to get the gold medals for 100% completion. Once I got the 7 Chaos Emeralds, I got to the Super Sonic boss fight, and while the first 2 Super Sonic fights in the Advanced Trilogy kinda sucked, this one was actually pretty good. It forces you to partner with Eggman, and then you throw him at the boss, opening up his eye, and then you charge into it to do damage to it. It's cool because it took the whole Eggman being vital to the boss to a new level. Overall, considering my day was ruined by the latter half of Sonic Colors DS, I had a pretty good time with Sonic Advance 3. It only took me 6 hours and 26 minutes, which was pretty quick actually, and my proudest time so far. And that pretty much wraps up day 5. This is it, the start of the end. Just the Rush series left, and you know what, I wasn't dreading going through Rush. In fact, I was looking forward to it. Again, I went to bed watching a guide of how to 100% Sonic Rush, and it didn't look too bad at all. So I loaded it up and started the game, and it felt so fresh. I think the boost mechanic in this was much better than it was in Sonic Colors DS, but maybe that's just me. Usually, it's in 3D Sonic games, the boost, and for this one in particular, it really helped this game stand out from the rest of them on the list. It gave me a real sense of speed in this game for the first time, and it feels like the levels actually had love and care put into them, and it felt like they considered the boost. The bosses as well were really fun to go through, maybe a bit on the long side, but yeah, the levels and the bosses for the most part were great. And the game also had this trick system, same as the Sonic Advance games, and it was a cool system. But anyways, while going through the levels, you'll find a weird little grabbable circle things, and you'll have to jump on them and start to boost for a few seconds, then it sends you into the bonus stage, which is like the Sonic 2 ones or Sonic Colors DS. And you know what, these bonus levels are also like a blast, and I had a rather good time throughout the entire game. The character designs in this game were again really charming. I really like how Sonic looks in this game, and then the way he looks whilst he's boosting is also really great, with the force field in front of him. Everything just looks great. I'm a big fan of how this game's set out and designed. Another thing I quite like is how the camera sometimes goes from a full front 2D game, and then it changes so it's at like the side of Sonic, so it's a weird camera angle. Like, I really like that for the most part, minus one bit, which I didn't really enjoy. And it made me appreciate the bonus levels in this game, because if the bonus levels were how this like little gliding section is, it would have been absolute hell. I would also like to speak more on the bonus levels, but it's literally Sonic 2's again and Sonic Colors. You run in a straight line, you collect the rings, except you do it with a stylus this time. You know, it's nothing different, and it feels good, so I can't complain. And you get 1 Chaos Emerald per zone, the 7 zones. Again, it's very Colors-esque. Once I got all the Chaos Emeralds, I got to the final boss. He took me a fair few tries because he has this one move where he slams down and just one-hits you. Other than that, it's a fairly simple final boss. Once you get the timing down, that's it. And then he died. I had to play through the game again with a brand new character, Blaze the Cat. And I had a Sonic Superstars moment where I had to play through the entire game, like the same levels and everything, with a slightly easier character. But it wasn't as bad in this game because I still enjoyed how Blaze played with the little float she has when you're in the air, or when she jumps she's covered in fire, which looks pretty cool. And it's a shame we hardly see her in the franchise now, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this was the introduction of the character and I enjoy her character, so that's great. I just wish we got different levels with her, but maybe I'm asking too much for that, considering it's a DS game. It was fine though. I didn't really take too much time beating it with Blaze either, and I didn't have to get the Chaos Emeralds again because she works off the Sol Emeralds, which you get passively for going through the game beating the bosses. Then I beat the game with Blaze and unlocked the final chapter, in which you play as Supersonic and Burning Blaze and fight Eggman. Or the Eggman, sorry. In a pretty bland final fight, to be honest, where you just knock him back the attacks he throws at you as Supersonic, and then as Blaze you throw what I think is fireballs at him to damage him. And this goes on for a little while, and then it just ends in a very anticlimactic way. Sonic Rush took me 6 hours and 33 minutes to beat, but like I said earlier, I love this game, and not having to go out my way to find anything like Chow, tokens, red rings was such a pleasant little thing. But that was all about to go out the window with the worst game in the franchise to 100%. Sonic Rush Adventure, the final game in the challenge, and I had a day and a half to beat it. I still didn't think it was enough time. Okay, let me start out by talking about the game itself. I actually rather enjoyed the game, for a while at least. The levels themselves were extremely fun, and it gives you the option to play as either Sonic or Blaze, which is a treat. The level themes and designs are great, and the way most of them play is really fun. It feels like a real upgrade on Sonic Rush, which I really enjoyed like I said earlier. Sonic Rush Adventure also brings back the boost mechanic, which is always great. The bosses were really fun and different for the franchise, like you fight a pirate on a ship in the same game as you fight like a robot T-Rex. It's just cool. Anyways, let me get to the stuff I despise about the game, and unfortunately, while I did enjoy the game, the key phrase is for a while, because I had to replay the same levels over and over and over again for materials, because you need the materials to build and upgrade your vehicles, and you need these vehicles to explore the sea, and you need to explore the sea to find the levels that you need to play. This is a horrible gameplay loop, like honestly awful. Why am I making vehicles in a Sonic game? Oh, and that isn't the worst of the game. You also have to speak to the characters on the base island, because you have a base island for some reason, to get missions, and you need to beat 100 fucking missions. You also need to earn the Sol Emeralds by completing the missions, and then you get the Chaos Emeralds by exploring the sea and hoping you stumble upon Johnny the Pirate, who you race to the Emeralds on your speedboat. The races are fine, different, which I can respect. I do like races, but the way to get to him is actually horrible. Also, on your island you have to make decorations for the 100% title. I have no clue what this game's problem is, but all these requirements are too much. So for day 6 I just had to play non-stop. My plan was to get the Chaos Emeralds, beat the game, and find all the hidden islands. Oh yeah, and on that stupid ocean map there are hidden islands I forgot to mention. And then you have to explore the map by dragging the stylus across your screen to explore the sea, and just hope you stumble upon stuff. And then as you're travelling through the sea, it's not just like you're instantly there, you have to do a mini game like that you have to play, and none of them are really fun. Yeah, it's just not great. I just carried on playing for the night and beat the game, and then I started to upgrade my vehicles and got almost all the Chaos Emeralds. And then I started grinding out the missions because there's 100 of the bastards, like I said. I got most of the bonus islands out of the way as well and collected some of the Sol Emeralds. With how much I have done before having to call it, I felt like this was finally actually possible. I just needed to do the final stretch on day 7. The final day of the final game, I carried on doing the missions and finished getting the Chaos and Sol Emeralds, and just carried on grinding. At this point I was sick of the levels and I was so over the game, but nothing was going to stop me. It was in the bag. I just had to focus, put my head down and finish getting the last of the missions done. Oh, and one last thing I had to do was complete Deep Core and beat the Supersonic and Burning Blaze boss fight before I could say it was it. And I hate to say it, but it was such an awful note to end everything on. The challenge has had its ups and downs for sure, but to end on such an awful Supersonic fight is so sad. So the gimmick is you hit Eggman's attacks back at him with Sonic, and then you throw fireballs with Blaze. Does that sound familiar? Well, it should, because it was pretty much Sonic Rush's Supersonic fight but worse. And that's really sad, but oh well, that was it. I finally beat Sonic Rush Adventure 100%. The game took me 25 hours and 44 minutes to beat. This was by far the worst game in the entire series for me. Like, it wasn't even close, just because of the amount I had to replay each level for the missions or to collect materials. It was just a huge bore. If you casually play through this game, I'm sure it's a blast, but for me, it was hell, and I'm so glad I never have to touch this game again. I wish I could talk more about the game or go on a big twist of how it's actually the best or the funnest one, but there's nothing left to talk about. It's really boring, you replay the same levels, the same bosses, the same mini games, and that's it, and it overstays its welcome after the 8-hour mark, let alone the 25th. This challenge has been so fun, but it's took so much out of me, and I'm sorry I haven't uploaded in ages. It's probably been like 2 months, but maybe longer. I've moved house, as you can tell from the background, been really busy with work, I've just had a lot of stuff going on, and this video's really took it out of me, but it's been so fun to do, so thank you if you've made it this far. In fact, this is the end, so thank you if you've watched it to the end. And yeah, the game's been incredibly toxic and bad for my health when I think about it. Staying up for 15 hours playing a fucking Sonic the Hedgehog game is not the play, but I guess it's all over now. My next video will be how many Pokemon games can I beat in one sitting, so I'm probably going to sit here, same space, for 3 days straight playing Pokemon games until I finally collapse. So if you like the sound of that, that will probably come out a lot sooner than this did, and yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching.